video, which is the drama from the SLC 10K. I did a Goblin Delivery Driver podcast on this. I just kind of want to like go in depth, read the entire thing and the update, and go on, look through the comments for a little bit. But I'm gonna drink this water real quick in 1 second. Okay. SLC 10K drama. I don't know who watched the recent SLC 10K stream, but the finals took around 11 hours and ended in a draw. The majority of the game was on a single stack over a cloud of fairies that the Rogthras player attempted to play. I'll read that sentence again because this is important. The majority of the game, the 11-hour game, was spent on a single stack over a cloud of fairies that the Rogthras player attempted to play. The Rogthras player was fast and decisive. It was a large stack, but that was not the issue. The issue was that one player, Golden Sabertooth, kept on talking. Hours of talking. He would take 10 plus minutes on decisions. All of this is fine and okay. However, he would be antagonizing the Rogthras player nonstop. He would insult him and try to bully him into making decisions faster than he should. Go back and watch the video. It gets pretty gross at times. He was not being competitive. He was being an asshole. All of this topped off by Golden Sabertooth having an early flight in the morning, meaning they had to put a timer on the game just for him. He kept stalling for 5+ hours just to force a draw in a finals. He even tried in the final game. He even tried to convince the pod to let him win at the end instead of declaring a tie. The game likely would have gone to the Rogthras player if there was no timer. So this person set a timer and said, I have a flight that I have to make. Is it okay? Finals are not supposed to be timed. They're also not supposed to be 11 hours, but that's beside the point. Can I set this timer? And when this timer goes off, we just agree that, like, if nobody's won, we draw. It's kind of insane to just set your own timer in an untimed match. But besides the point, the person who set the timer and said, oh, we'll draw if nobody wins, that person then began filibustering, saying, like, puts the timer on the table and then acts like it's not there and, like, just, like, talk, trying to, like, negotiate. And, so it's important to communicate that Commander is a social format. There is a large amount of talking that'll happen. You have to communicate what you have with the other players if you want to work with them. If you don't want to work with them, then you have to, like, try to, like, do different things to get them to do what you want. However, the person delaying and stalling, also being the person who has the timer, that just sets a beautiful scene for a horrible situation where you get to somebody who's trying really hard to win the game, the Rogthras player. He's trying to, okay, we only have, 11 hours. Let's go really fast, guys. Let's play the game, see who the natural winner is. We're in the finals. We've all won by getting to this point. We just have to, do well in this last game. And whoever wins. So it sounds like we have a table of players who are trying to resolve the game. And we have one player who just decides to just keep talking. Has a lot of interaction, has a lot of counter magic. We don't know because I didn't see the video, and we'll talk about that in the update. But from what the consensus of the community is, right? This is not the only post on this. I've seen a lot of people post about it, and some people got to watch it live. Really wish I would have watched it live. That sounds like it would have been amazing to see. But we have a player who's trying their best to win the game, has a combo or threats, a cloud of fairies that when it enters, you untap 2 lands and it costs 2 mana. If you have any way to increase the amount of mana that you're tapping those lands for, or if you have a cost reducer on your cloud of fairies, then you're able to make infinite mana and potentially just win the game. So it sounds like we got to a point where the game was going to end, and this player, Golden Sabertooth, decided, okay, well, if I play to the clock, I'll be able to draw the game and be just as well off as the rest of these players, whether I win or I lose. Because it sounds like the Rogthras player had the game. There was a huge stack, a lot of interaction going on, right? But they had the aggressive take. They had the combo. They were playing to win. And it sounds like this Golden Sabretooth player was trying to play to not lose, but not in the game, with their words. They were trying to manipulate and entice their other players to talk about things that weren't magic, to try to just stall. Stalling for 5 hours, with most of that being on a single spell on the stack, should be bannable. Like, imagine you're playing modern. This is a completely different like situation, right? But imagine you're playing modern and your opponent plays their combo, and then you play a removal spell and they play a counter spell, you play a counter spell, they play a counter spell. Their combo is going to resolve. But then you have 15 minutes left on the clock. So what do? You try your best not to lose. So you start talking. Oh, look at the beautiful day we're having. I really think that your shoes suck. And then they're like, you get defensive. You're like, my shoes don't suck. And they're like, yeah, they do because I hate Vans. And they're like, well, I really like Vans. And then all of a sudden, 15 minutes has gone by and you've drawn the game. Even though they're going to win the game, you just like it wouldn't happen like that because it would go to turns. But in the finals of a CDH tournament, somebody stalled for 5 hours. That's impressive by congressional standards. You get somebody out here trying to filibuster for 30 minutes, that's tough. My mouth is dry and I've only been talking for fucking 5. Like, you're in this position where if you let the table and the game progress as it should in a normal game of Commander, nothing bad's going to happen. Everything's going to be fine. One player's going to win, one player's going to lose, another player's going to lose, another player's going to lose. That's okay. There could be a draw. Some situations it's likely to happen. I play a deck that draws the game. I can't say intentionally, but I think about it like I win the game. Heartless Agetsu is a 5 mana 5/3 that taps to deal damage equal to each player equal to half their life total, rounded up, rounded up. So the cool thing about that is all the players take the damage at the same time. And with a damage doubler, if they're an even life total, everybody dies. But everybody dies at the same time. So it technically draws the game. I like to say that I win though, because I'm the one who killed the table, right? And so that's like more of a flavor thing. I play that at a CDH table where everybody's going super fast and doing their own thing. I want to just play my Heartless Degetsu, have a damage doubler and tap it and say, okay, everybody dies, but you know who killed you. This is completely different. This is like that is like I have a stipulation that the way I win the game with that deck is I do something silly and everybody dies. Nobody can get mad though because like yeah, I killed everybody, but we all died at the same time. I technically didn't win. So it's a great way to end a game that would have otherwise ended in like a bad situation. People would have been frustrated that somebody comboed off or the CEDH Planeswalker deck took a million turns. Instead, I made it quick and succinct, and we can play another one, and then we play another one, right? This is the opposite of that. This is somebody trying to draw the game after saying, okay, well, this untimed match actually shouldn't be untimed because I have a flight in the morning. If you had a flight in the morning, you could have died to the cloud of fairies, picked up your stuff, gone home, taken a nap, eaten breakfast in the morning, and still caught your flight. Instead, this person decided to try to filibuster, which should only happen in Congress, for fuck's sake, not in EDH. We are a democracy, crying out loud. This is too far. Like, you can't just let somebody try to win a game by taking forever. And this person was trying to get percentage points in the tournament by saying, well, I know I'm going to lose, but I'm going to take as long as I possibly can to see if I can stall out the game. And oh, look, my artificial clock ran out. What's crazy, they didn't have to concede when that clock ran out, right? They could have just been like, oh, buddy, you got to go, right? Go get your flight. And if he stays, then you know he was lying. That's the other thing. I'm thinking maybe they didn't have a flight to catch. Maybe this is big, like conspiracy brain, right? But maybe they didn't have a flight to catch. Instead, they set the timer knowing they were going to filibuster, knowing that they were going to do that. Then they had an out. They knew that if they were losing, they had an out to not lose the game. They could instead draw because usually the finals are untimed. And that, you know what, that Raw Thras player would have sat there for another 2 hours if he had to get the damn game because it looks like someone was very determined and they were working hard in order to try to win and did great in this tournament. They all did great in this tournament. I'm sure. I'm sure they weren't just all draws, right? We can't say that. That's neither here nor there. However, really important to just see that this game could have gone a completely different direction if the Golden Sabretooth, if person Golden Sabretooth hadn't artificially created a construct, the timer, that would not have existed otherwise, and then gave themselves an out to not receive the loss. Well, let's keep going. Why care? Because toxic behavior like this should not be tolerated by the community. Spending hours on end arguing with people and insulting them is not okay. Golden Sabretooth is also a big part of the community. He makes amazing art and contributes a lot to the scene. However, playing like this should not be tolerated in any way. I encourage everybody to watch even a 10-minute section in the later half of the tournament. It will make all the sense. This is not to cancel anybody. I agree. We're not trying to cancel anybody. However, people should be better and judges should call this behavior out. Okay, and I've gone off on Golden Sabretooth, right? But time to go off on some damn judges. I guarantee you in the finals of a CDH tournament, there's not just one judge. There's probably multiple judges. They're very tired. They don't want to be there anymore. I understand. They don't get paid enough to watch an 11-hour game. But guess what, judges? I know there's a lot going on, but if there's insults at the table, if there's disrespect in any way, if there's filibustering about non-magic stuff, if there's demeaning or derogatory comments, oh, Jared, you killed it. I will not say that, but you killed it. If there's derogatory comments, you have to make sure that as a judge, you stick up for the community, you protect the table, because those are good players who are sitting there. Even I'm sure Golden Sabretooth is, I reluctantly say, probably a good player. I don't know them, but it looks like they're a good CDH player. That makes it all the more unacceptable for them to be filibustering for a loss. To try to not receive an actual game loss on your record and to achieve it by just filibustering, which just means talking. It just means talking nonstop and not allowing anybody else to get a word in edgewise or stalling for time. To be filibustering for so long, unreproached. If I was a judge, I would have put a judge behind each of those players, watched their hand and what they were doing. Then you understand what are the cards they have to work with, what are they thinking about, are the comments that they're making related to the game. And then if somebody takes more than 10 minutes on a turn, if somebody takes more than 5 minutes on a turn, and you can see their hand, and you know that they're not making decisions, especially if it's one stack. That's the other thing. There should be a timer, not on like chess clock players' turns, but there should be a timer on the stack. How long is one stack going to be like, play Cloud of Fairies, somebody plays Counterspell. We all start talking about whether that needs to be countered. The player who plays the Cloud of Fairies counters the counterspell. Somebody else starts talking about whether that needs to be countered. Then that player counters that counterspell, right? Then they keep talking about whether or not that should be countered. All of this, right, can only be talked about for a certain set amount of time. Should be. 5 hours on one stack is insane. You really should be able to watch a game of CDH and know that you're not going to die before the game ends, right? You literally could sit here and try to watch 11 plus hours and you could pass out. You could just die. You could be like, I'm going to stay up for this entire thing and eat popcorn. And you could literally have a heart attack because watching an 11-hour game of somebody insulting somebody is bad for your damn health. And I'm kind of glad that we don't have the vlog, but I wish we could see it because then we could see how atrocious this was and how easy it would have been for a judge to step in. I'm not trying to shame the judges. Judges are great people. They do a great job. They have a very difficult job. Shout out to all the judges out there. However, it sounds like these judges were either too tired or non-confrontational and probably had interacted with Golden Sabretooth the entire tournament. Didn't want to jump in front of a freight train that they knew was already being, I don't want to say aggressive, but demeaning, insulting, berating. They didn't want the smoke. So they were just like, no, we're not going to do it. And instead allowed these 3 other players that were playing this game to sit in what will go down in infamy as the worst game of CDH of all time. I guarantee you. You can't have had a worse game of CDH than this. It wasn't 11 plus hours, I guarantee you, and it wasn't the finals of a CDH tournament, so you've played other rounds, I guarantee you. And your game probably didn't end in a draw. after 11 hours. If you have a worse story than that, please drop it in the comments. I want to know. It's so frustrating because I love EDH. And to watch the game that I started playing probably 2015, 2016, um, the Nekasar Commander was one of my first precons. Like, I started early, and I was building my own deck before that. It was a bad Crush deck, but I absolutely loved it. To watch the community and the game slowly rotate away from like EDH, like very relaxed, chill format, everybody's hanging out after they play Modern, slowly evolve into people who want to play vintage and legacy but can't afford, the cards that they need. Instead, just play CDH. And I'm not saying the CDH is cheaper. I'm saying the people who are competitively minded but don't want to play those competitive formats for whatever reason gravitate towards these CDH tournaments because there's people like me who will just always play their favorite things, not the best things, and they try to get free wins. And draw, this first off, we need to talk about the tournament structure with draws real quick. Tournaments give you I believe it's 3 points for a win, 0 points for a loss, 1 point for a draw in CDH. And that's insane. You're telling me that if every table the entire round agrees to a draw, they're still going to have more points than every table that, won and then lost and then won and then lost, right? Like if they go 2-2, they have 6 points. And then they draw. It's only 4. Okay, so that's a bad example. But like imagine, right? You win 2 and you lose 6. You have just as many points as the person or win 2, lose 4. That's 6 points. You draw 6 matches, you have the same amount of points as somebody who did all that work and tried, who took their losses and took their wins. Like the system rewards you to playing towards the clock, to playing towards a draw. And that's kind of insane. Why would you allow somebody to filibuster like this, to bully his opponents and his fellow players into a situation where people don't want to play anymore? And at the end, the big icing on the cake is that after setting the timer and being the one to filibuster to get to the timer, before the draw was initiated, they asked, "Would you like to concede to me? Would you like to concede to me? I have filibustered you for 5+ hours. I have mentally and verbally berated you, broken you down, been rude and mean. At the end, though, would you like to concede? Would you like to give me the free win? I think you should give me the free win after I filibuster you for 5 hours, after the game goes 11 hours. And it could have gone to 15 hours, but I set this timer for this flight that I'm going to catch. Would you also like to just give me the match? We don't have to draw. Someone could win." The Rag Thrasios player was probably like, "Wait, buddy, I was going to win. You're the one who created the artificial construct of the clock and then played to the clock." It's just like so incredibly frustrating. And to ask for the concession after filibustering for 5 hours blows my mind. Actually insane. Not okay. One of those things that as a community we have to call out. And the judges, they need to do better. I know if they were playing at my store, my LGS, judges would have been there sitting on the table. They would have been like this. Let's do something. Let us talk. Like less talky, more playy. Like, come on. It's kind of insane to let people play an 11-hour game of EDH. I understand the game's good. I understand it's fun. These people have lives. The judges have lives. I have a life. Like just thinking about that, what makes me grow old. And so, yeah, it's kind of insane, especially the artificial time construct was created by the player who stalled for the most time. And then at the end, disrespected the other players by asking for a concession after wasting all of their time. Not allowing the person who had the win to achieve the win because it probably would have taken just a couple more turns. It's crazy. And then to disrespect and verbally berate the players and the game in this way is just not okay. And the update is the past weekend we learned the hard way that YouTube doesn't save VODs longer than 12 hours. This is our first time streaming, and unfortunately we had some errors. We are learning along the way. What does that mean? It means our 19-hour stream from day 2 is not rendered. We weren't able to preserve any of the VOD footage, and we're incredibly heartbroken to lose what is a historic moment for the Magic community. Despite our best efforts to recover the footage, it is permanently gone. It is a tough lesson, but at present, we're updating our workflow with redundant backups to make sure it never happens again. This weekend was an honor to be able to bring the community directly to the table. We'll continue to bring you the best content we can, Chris. Big shout out to the people who. Oh, and this was a message from Mind Over Meta, the people who hosted the tournament. So big shout out to the person who posted this to get this conversation into the Magic sphere. We all need to be aware of stuff like this, right? There's always going to be players who are going to try to like talk through the game, play to the clock, and in competitive, we're used to this, right? We understand. Oh, I know this person likes to draw games. Let's play fast. Let's put the pressure on them to make the mistakes because I'm going to take my turn and then just sit there. And if you just sit there and flick your cards and I know you're going to just pass, then eventually you call a judge on them and you hope that the judge understands, you know, what slow play looks like, what stalling and filibustering looks like. Because there's one thing to be talking to the table and communicating how you feel, another thing entirely to just be saying, okay, I'm going to stall until my timer runs out and then ask for a concession because I broke them down mentally and they're tired. And then if they stick up for themselves and they say no, then I get a draw anyway and I still get a point. It's actually insane. This will unironically just have a massive negative impact on how people view CDH as a whole. So incredibly true. The main problem with CDH is that people feel they don't even play. They feel like it's not fun. I had a really interesting experience with my two-headed giant partner last night. We finished a round early when we played some EDH with the people we played against. Shout out to Dan and John, the OGs from the GOAT. But we played up against them, and I was playing my Wart Bogart anti deck, which is just goblins, a bunch of different goblins. Some of them are better than others, but they're just goblins. I got off to a really aggressive start with a lackey and a matron and a muxus, and then they blasphemous acted, and then I had to rebuild. But the player who was sitting next to me, my two-headed giant partner, he told the table, he was like, I'm playing kind of CEDH. And immediately, all of us normal EDH players teamed up and just killed him in 2 turns because we were like, well, you're going to combo kill us because he was telling us he was going to combo kill us. And as he died, he shows the Thassa's Oracle and how he's going to flip his deck. And we're all like, yes, okay. And so there's kind of a like this condition where normal EDH players really struggle with, okay, we can't let that CDH player live because they have combos. They have ways to just, I don't want to say steal the game, but win the game randomly. And it's not the way you want to play. You want to play slow and more grindy and enjoy the game. And, there's a time and a place for everything. But it's a really interesting thing to think about. Like, one person said they were playing CDH and they immediately died because the rest of us were scared of losing and we were going to lose. So the only way that we could beat them is together. All 3 of us teamed up and beat them down. And it was kind of insane to watch, like, my teammates, reaction. He was very happy playing the game until he died because he believed he was going to combo off and win. And I think that's a good like microcosm or that's a really good insight into how a CDH deck is, or how the players play, how the deck is built. Is you want to build the deck to win, and while you're thinking about how you're going to win, the deck's fun. But is the deck fun when you're losing? Right? Does it do something cool that you enjoy playing even when you're not doing your stupid combo thing, even if you don't get the win? I play goblins. I didn't win that game, but I had so much fun just playing goblins the entire time. And I think CDH is kind of the antithesis or the opposite of what Magic should be, or EDH should be, because it should be where you play your fun cards you can't play in other formats. It should be where you're able to do dumb, flat, splashy things. Like Dan. Dan played a Vorinclex Monstrous Raider in his Minskin and Boo deck, and then had an Exynos out, and then was able to double the Vorinclex's power, and then put double the counters on Vorinclex after attacking. And just the whole deck was basically built around different kinds of Vorinclexes. And Vorinclex is really strong, but that was super cool to see. And we lost to it. It was super dumb, like in a great way. So I say all that to say this, right? I think that there's a time and a place for CDH and it's fun. But it shouldn't take away from what EDH is. And it's really sad that the way that us EDH players feel about CDH is negative, because I'm sure it could be a great thing, but we keep hearing stories like this, and the format is kind of focused on just like murder, 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 kill, kill, kill. You want to kill your opponent as fast as possible and make sure that you're able to, Do what you have to do in order to win the game. And that's not always the best, especially in a multiplayer format. You want to have fun. The icing on the cake was that this person asked the judges to step outside to talk away from the cameras and the mics and burned the game time after confirming it would not be paused. Yeah, because so he asked to step away from the table, I guess, and then like moved the judges away from the cameras and the microphones, and then also told the table, "We're not pausing the clock that I have set, the timer I have set. We're not pausing it while I go talk to these judges." Klang had just cast a Veil of Summer, which would have guaranteed him protection from OBM if not countered. GST waited 2 to 3 minutes of game time, then returned to the room and started pressuring Kong for game actions after wasting time. He's like, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" After just wasting a bunch of time outside. Honestly disgusted with this person's unsportsmanlike behavior. Saber's behavior was insulting to the game. That was not CDH. That was unsportsmanlike and is a joke to the competitive scene. The nepotism given to Saber because of his minor celebrity status in the scene is insane. The TO and the judge need to speak publicly about this shit show of a finals. No player should have to sit in a chair for 11 hours to play a match of Magic. Time should have been called hours ago. Allowing for Saber to not advance game states and talk politics for extended time without warning was ridiculous. And on top of that, the nerve to try to ask for the points to obtain the win. The fact that he tried to Thassa's when time was called, when he objectively ran out the game clock to extended hours, is laughable. I know people are going to post videos dissecting the finals, but the TO and the judge need to own it and not just pass the buck. Yeah, and this person, honestly, I'm new to the CDH community. Longtime player coming back after 20 years. It was demotivating and disheartening. I watched 5 hours of it. I don't know how any of these people, but this Sabretooth guy, I mean, come on. And then right at the end, this guy tries to talk everybody else into conceding to him. Thank God they didn't go along with it. 11 hours ends in a draw. Coming back to this game after so many years to see this felt gross. I know CDH isn't modern. It is what it is, but this isn't it. 11 hours to draw, dude. This is the kind of crap. Yeah, that's the kind of crap that gives a bad rep to Commander. Let's be better. Yes. And I'll just leave it at that. The community needs to come together, and it looks like we have come together, and we all kind of agree 11 hours is too long. This is not okay. We want to see change. It's just important. It's important to recognize stuff like this for what it is, which is just not okay. And we love the game too much. Really appreciate y'all watching. This is where the YouTube video is going to end. And yeah, until next time, I'm going to end the stream here. This has been my TED Talk. Really appreciate y'all watching. I'm going to break all this up into YouTube videos posted over the week. So you guys saw it live first. Guys, gals, y'all saw it live first. So really appreciate you being here. If you enjoy Goblin's content, if you enjoy listening to me ramble, hit that like and subscribe. Easiest way to support the channel, and it's free. Now, I will have to shout out these new members again. We have so many new members. Look at all this. We have Alpha Ronin, Tim's Top Decks, Elias Sutter, The Darth Newt, ADDY 100K, Jared Munsterman, Annan, Gavarskar, Sliver of Nope, B. Ramey. Oh, yeah, it jumped. Annan, Reberio, Cypher777, The High Wumpus, AJR, B. Rami, Gorvasker, Sliver of Nope, Scott McIntosh, Javier Hugo, and Velaroth. If any of your names were pronounced incorrectly, I'm so sorry. Comment down below how I say it, like a pronunciation guide, and I'll get it right next time. When I stream 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to have Sharpies. We're going to put your names up on the board. So tune in then, 10 o'clock p.m. CST. The modern grind continues. It can't stop. Really appreciate y'all watching. Till next time, I hope you have a beautiful day. Peace.